MGTOW Masterpiece videos are made possible by excellence within the MGTOW community. Join our Renaissance project by submitting your own Masterpiece MGTOW video today.
Humans are animals. Animal societies are built on how sexual dimorphism plays out within the species. In humans, sexual dimorphism favors the males. Not only are human males bigger and stronger than females, but they are also smarter. Now, this raises an interesting question. If men are physically and mentally superior to women, how come human society is female dominated? To answer this question, we have to look at how power works. Power is the ability to influence the behavior of others to get the outcomes one wants. Now, there are two types of power: hard power and soft power. The first is defined as the use of force and money to influence others, while the latter is the ability to attract and co-opt people. Let us further examine these different power dynamics. Hard power is coercive power executed through military threats and economic inducements and is based on tangible resources such as the army or economics. Thus, the American invasion of Iraq in 2003 and America's economic sanctions against Iran are examples of the US exercising its hard power. Hard power can be summed up by two words: money and muscle. Soft power, aptly named the second phase of power, is the capacity to persuade others to do what one wants. Persuasive power is based on attraction and emulation. It relies on intangible power resources such as culture, ideology, and institutions. Since soft power relies on intangible resources, it is vital those wielding it can generate legitimacy in order to enhance soft power. Thus, trust is vital to soft power. The dispersion of American culture throughout the world via Hollywood indicates the existence of American soft power. The American film industry has a tremendous reach and influence across the world. Within France, an ally of the US, double the amount of people watch American films than French cinema on average. This figure is even greater in America's enemies. In Russia, it's triple. China, America's biggest rival and the world's second largest superpower, is responsible for half of the 12 films that reach billionaire box office status since 2011. This means that the next generation of leaders of America's enemies are being raised on Hollywood films. Obama acknowledged this in a recent speech when he said, "Entertainment is part of our American diplomacy. It's part of what makes us exceptional, part of what makes us such a world power. You can go anywhere on the planet and you'll see a kid wearing a Madagascar t-shirt. You can say, 'May the force be with you,' and they know what you're talking about." Other countries have realized the threat that Hollywood poses. Some block or limit the number of foreign films, limit the amount of box office spots that go to foreign producers, and give support to their local film industry to protect it and help it grow. China, for example, has limited the number of foreign films in its cinemas to 20 a year, and forces Hollywood to use a domestic distributor receiving 15% of box office receipts compared to America, where distributors get 50 to 55% and 40 to 45% elsewhere on average. Russia has started to take similar steps since the Ukrainian crisis. Beyond the numbers, Hollywood also molds perceptions about culture, peoples, and even history. Film critic and historian Ed Rampell explains this in Black Hawk Down, based on the Battle of Mogadishu. He says, "Look at Black Hawk Down. The one thing everybody who was watching CNN at the time remembers about that actual real-life incident was the dead US servicemen dragged through the dirt in the dust in their underwear by the triumphant Somalis. Where's that in the movie Black Hawk Down, which was heavily supported by the US military?" Access to power resources is what determines how effective the use of each power dynamic will be. When it comes to hard power, size matters, since large states with higher national incomes are financially able to maintain large armed forces and put economic pressure on other states. This means smaller states are forced to develop their soft power capabilities since they cannot compete with the larger states. At first, it seems time is on the side of hard power because it's based on tangible resources, meaning generating it requires little time. Though the initial results from military and economic coercion are immediate, They're short-lived, since the nature of hard power entails forcing one to act in a way different to one's usual behavior. In the long run, you realize time actually favors soft power, since it changes one's attitude to the end that one acts voluntarily in a way different to one's usual behavior inducing consent. Where hard power coerces, soft power co-opts. Where hard power is direct, soft power is indirect. Where hard power is aggressive, soft power is passive. Now, geopolitics aside, let us examine how these different power dynamics fit into male-female relationships. The battle of the sexes is a civil war between men and women who are vying for A. Resources, and B. Control. Contrary to feminist dogma, gender is not a social construct, and nature plays a major role in determination of each gender's tool of battle. Men are bigger, stronger, and smarter, so they are naturally disposed to hard power. Women, on the other hand, being the smaller and weaker sex, means they have to rely on soft power. Maybe this is why women are perceived as soft. Well, who knows? The first component of hard power is physical strength, and men dominate this area. To those who would dispute this claim, go ahead and watch videos on YouTube of men and women getting into confrontations that turn violent. Women overcome this hard power disadvantage by using their soft power to make it socially unacceptable for men to exercise hard power. Women achieve this via institutions starting with schools. In the UK, 97% of nursery school teachers are female, and 1/4 of primary schools in the UK are staffed entirely by females. All in all, males only represent 12% of primary school teachers. This means that female teachers are free to instill gynocentrism into boys from an early age. The message, "boys shouldn't hit girls," translates into, "don't exercise your hard power advantages over females." Women's control of schools means they can potentially modify any lifestyle that disadvantages and threatens them. This could mean why boys get expelled from nursery 5 times more than girls, are diagnosed with learning disorders and attention problems at nearly 4 times the rate of girls, and are nearly 3 times as likely as girls to be diagnosed with attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, which leads to medication. The justice system is the second institution women use to curb men's hard power. It's their safety net. The justice system is in place for men who have questioned the social conditioning they have been subjected to since nursery, and realized they were being manipulated or exploited. The threat of proxy violence stops these men from exercising their hard power over women. I, for example, would not hit a woman who hit me first. Not because I believe it is morally wrong to hit a woman, but because I don't want to get arrested, to go to jail, and get a criminal record hindering my chances of employment in the process. The second component of hard power is money. Men dominate women in this area too. But the reasons why this is so are not solely down to nature, as is the case with the first component of hard power. The monetary advantages men enjoy are due to a mixture of nature and nurture. Work is divided into 2 fields: jobs that require brawn, for example, manual labor, and jobs that require brains, for example, STEM. Men naturally dominate these fields due to sexual dimorphism favoring men. Testosterone, which men produce in a higher quantity to women, makes them more competitive and more likely to take risks. Now, let us look at how men are nurtured. All men are raised to view themselves as inherently worthless. If men fail, there is no safety net for them, and you can see this in homelessness and suicide rates amongst men. Men have to dig their way out of this hole if they are to get a woman or a place in life. This means work starts to become more than something they do to acquire resources to purchase their basic necessities in life, such as food and clothing or shelter, and starts to take on a whole new meaning. Men start to base their identities on their jobs. Success or failure in life is determined by how well they can extract resources. This is why men kill themselves after losing their jobs. The stress of losing their ability to provision resources with no safety nets in place to catch them, combined with the stress of losing their identity marker, leads to an existential crisis. Women, on the other hand, are raised to view themselves as being valuable by virtue of having a vagina. This means women don't face the pressures men face. This reality is reflected in their career choices. Women like working in safe environments, doing jobs that don't require a lot of physical and mental efforts, and only half of the time. 2/3 of women work part-time. Is it any wonder men earn more money? Women overcome this hard power advantage by getting men to use their resources on them instead of against them, voluntarily or involuntarily. They go about this in two ways: personally and professionally. In personal relationships, women extract money from men using romance. Romance is a money making scheme that comes in the form of a pyramid which consists of 4 levels: dating, long term relationships, marriage, and divorce. Each stage is more expensive than the previous. It starts off with dating. During the dating phase, women demand to be wined and dined, which carries on to the second stage called the long term relationship. The long term relationship comes with newly added expectations on top of the old ones, such as contributing towards her day to day expenses like food and transportation. The long term relationship reaches its climax when the woman convinces the man that they should take the relationship to the next level and move in together, namely, for her to live in his house rent free. The third stage comes when she pressures or traps the man into marriage. She won't accept his proposal until he's on his knee presenting her with 3 months of his wages in the form of an engagement ring. After she's done parading the diamond ring to her girlfriends, a date is set for the big day. The wedding will cost on average more than $30,000. Inside the marriage, there will be a division of labor. This will take the form of he earns it, she spends it. Here is an excerpt from a Daily Mail article to further illustrate the point. It is entitled, 9 out of 10 middle-aged women have control over financial planning. More than a third, 36%, said their partner or husband believed he was in control of the purse strings. But, in reality, they controlled the finances and were responsible for making sure bills were paid, balancing the books, and keeping on top of household spending, they said. 9 out of 10 of the women questioned said they made the decisions on furniture purchases. 92% controlled the buying of large appliances, including TVs, stereos, and computers, while 85% said that they decided where the family went on holidays. And the majority, 66%, also revealed they had the final say on the family car. The situation is the same around the world. Some places are far less subtle than the situation in the UK. In Japan, the husband literally hands over his wages to his unemployed, stay-at-home wife, who then gives the man pocket money out of his own salary. No wonder Japan is paving the way for MGTOW. After marriage comes the divorce. During the divorce, the woman takes the man's money in multiple ways. First, she can claim she can't afford a lawyer, so he has to pay for her lawyer fees on top of his own. This means the man has to foot the bill for the whole legal process. Secondly, she takes half of his assets, whether she contributed towards them or not. Finally, she claims child support and alimony from the remainder of his wealth. All in all, the man stands to lose 80 to 90% of his wealth, becoming a wage slave to her in the process. In the professional realm, women extract money from men indirectly through the government. This is what feminism is about in a nutshell. They achieve this first through the wage gap myth. Man-Woman Myth makes an excellent video debunking this myth. In his video, he says, tickets to the Wimbledon's men's final cost £965. Tickets to the women's final cost £325. Yet prize money for both sexes is equal. Add to this that men are required to play much more tennis than women, with men playing best of 5 sets and women only playing best of 3, and men play tennis at a much higher standard than women, and that the requirement for men to play more sets means most male players have no time left to play in other events, like the doubles, which means that women are able to earn much more than men at events. He continues, prize money in 2012 was £1.1 million, with men required to play a minimum of 21 sets to win the prize, whereas women were only required to play 14 sets to win the same amount. As it played out in 2012, Roger Federer played 26 sets to win Wimbledon. In contrast, Serena Williams played just 17 sets. This means Federer received £44,000 per set, whereas Williams received £67,000. That's a £23,000 pay advantage for women per set, and a more than 50% higher rate of pay. So not only did Serena Williams earn more money than Roger Federer per set, she also had the opportunity to play in the doubles and pick up another prize. The unfairness does not end at center court. Across the Atlantic, the new CEO of Reddit, Ellen Pao, banned salary negotiations because men are harder negotiators, resulting in higher salaries for them. Pao said, "If you want more equity, we'll let you swap a little bit of your cash salary for equity. But we aren't going to reward people who are better negotiators with more compensation." And by people, she means men. How much money are men standing to lose because of this feminist? Well, the article says, not negotiating salaries means you lose 500,000 by the time you hit 60. Imagine what men could have done with that money. Some feminists don't even pretend to hide what their true intentions are. Heidi Hartman, president of the Institute for Women's Police Research, suggested the most common way to address the pay gap in companies is to give larger raises to the underpaid group and much smaller or even no raises to the group that is seen as overpaid for the work being performed. And this is exactly what former New York Times executive editor Jill Abramson did. "You bring the guys down to give a little more to the girls," she said. "I did that at the Times. No one's happy to get a cut, but too bad." Another way women use the government to extract money from men is through taxes. Since men and women both pay taxes, we'll break it down by how much each sex pays in comparison to how much they receive back in benefits. American men pay 2/3 of taxes, while only receiving 1/3 of welfare, while American women pay 1/3 of taxes and receive 2/3 of welfare. There are over 200 welfare programs for women and children, and none for men in the States. How much does the US government spend on women? Well, 62% of total federal spending for 2014 was on welfare, namely Social Security, unemployment and labor, and Medicare and health care. It's no different over here in the UK. 85% of the money saved from benefit and tax changes since the Conservatives came into power in 2010 has directly come from women's pockets, a Fawcett Society report found. A Guardian article says, to put it another way, £22 billion of the £26 billion saved from welfare reform has been taken from women. Make no mistake, women's suffrage created the welfare state. Both traditionalists and feminists agree that male labor should support women, but differ on how. Traditionalists believe each man should support the women in his life, while feminists want all men to support all women regardless of their relationship to them. So, there you have it, gentlemen. Women have strategically taken away our power by making it illegal for us to exercise our natural superior physical strength, and by directing our resources for their own use. The end.